Over the weekend, Bitcoin failed to get above 24,300, the major resistance level. Snipers, we have a lot to talk about today with a new daily, weekly, and monthly open, and futures markets are currently open. Bitcoin so far rejecting this extremely important resistance level. We've yet to get 4-hour candle confirmations above 24,300, and we know what that means for Bitcoin. It opens up the door for us now to potentially come down towards this extremely important market structural support level just above the $20,000 level. And that is because the range resistance right now is clearly acting as a resistance. Notice yesterday's daily candle closing with a rejection of not just 24,295, but also 23,795. So right now, Bitcoin, the most important level is going to be the previous weekly open at 22,575. In the immediate short term, 22,500 has to hold if we want to assume that Bitcoin can get another test above 24,000 US dollars. But until then, 24,300 is still our major resistance. And until we can get price action above 24,300, I talked about the price action with a deadline. I wanted to see this breakout this weekend because the equity markets gave Bitcoin the green light to see a push to the upside, but we didn't get that. We're seeing Bitcoin clearly underperform the equity markets right now. And now that the equity markets are open, it gives Bitcoin a potential door to open up to see some downside, with the S&P 500 right now in futures markets down 0.39%. I wouldn't be too worried though in the medium term to macro, because we still have a very strong weekly close for the S&P 500. So there's still a chance we could see some bullish action into this week. I wouldn't put that off the table, especially with the DXY so far rejecting 106.56. It looks like the DXY wants to calm down and see some downside, which is very positive for Bitcoin and the equity market. So the four-dimensional revolving parts, the environment outside of Bitcoin is still positive, but Bitcoin is clearly not performing well against the S&P 500. And you can clearly see that with the Bitcoin against S&P 500 chart showing a whole different picture with a very bearish daily candle close. And you can see we have a lower high, not a higher high forming here. And so it's a little bit of a different chart here, but you can clearly see that Bitcoin is not performing as well against the S&P 500. I see we have over 100 people on our live stream. I'm going to quickly wrap up this midnight update, snipers. I want to make sure this is a short video so that those that want to stay up to date with what's happening can get the information that they need from this live stream. But just to look at this current weekly and monthly open and say, would you go long here or would you go short here? I think that if you invert the chart, you can get a very clear answer. And what you'll notice here is at this point, the only major level right here is 24,300 and 23,795. And so for you to take a long position below a major resistance, I think that would be quite foolish, because there's certainly more room to the downside than the upside until we move away from this consolidation. So taking a long position here, I don't think is on the table. Potentially entertaining a short position with a tight stop loss right here at 24,600 maybe. That could potentially be on the table there, because you at least have a risk to reward setup here. So I wouldn't be taking short positions here at the weekly and monthly open. I would actually recommend to avoid the weekly and monthly open, because we could see manipulated price action here. It's still Sunday night, so we could still consider this the weekend. Let's see what happens, snipers. Very interesting to see this price action right now. But Bitcoin is clearly underperforming against the equity markets. Until we can break above 24,300, we do not have a full confirmation that Bitcoin needs to see further upside. If we break above 24,300, we all know what we're watching here, that $28,000 to $30,000 level, for us to potentially come and test this market structural resistance that has held us down since the $69,000 level. What's interesting is if we pull up the 20-week moving average, you can see here with the 20-week, what we're looking at is potential confluence here with this market structural resistance here soon. If the 20-week just pushes a little bit lower, you can see that could give Bitcoin a chance to at least come to test that 20-week moving average. And what I'd find interesting about that is, let's say that there is some strength that comes into equity markets and that helps Bitcoin get above 24,300. The reason the 20-week moving average, which currently sits at 30,000 break even, that's an interesting place for me, because that would also assume that the DXY could potentially come down to test its 20-week moving average, and that would be totally garden variety market behavior. The DXY could still stay bullish if that happens, if we hold the 20-week moving average, but breaking below the 20-week moving average would certainly mean the DXY is losing steam. And so I'm monitoring this 20-week moving average for the DXY at 103.40, and that could justify Bitcoin coming up to test its 20-week moving average at 30,000. But what I do know for sure, snipers, I want to be very clear with this, is that Bitcoin is still facing major resistance. We have not gotten a full 4-hour candle confirmation, no 6-hour candle confirmation above this resistance, which means Bitcoin is still facing resistance. It's not breaking out just yet. And so let's continue to monitor this price action. I see we've got Swamp Gator and I Am Zoo on our live stream. Thank you guys for tuning into the live. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. And I think that that's about it for now. So I'm monitoring the DXY coming into this week. So far, we're losing this level here at 106.56, which is positive for the equity markets and Bitcoin. So if we continue to see the DXY sell off, that's a very positive puzzle piece. The S&P 500 had a very nice weekly candle close, assuming that we could potentially see some bullish action. You can see the S&P 500 is fully above the 20-week moving average right now. That's a big deal. That 20-week moving average, you can see, is what rejected the S&P 500 in the past. You actually consider that 20-week moving average home base, and so it's crazy to see that the S&P 500 right now is above its 20-week moving average, but Bitcoin clearly not above its 20-week moving average, as it's underperforming the S&P 500. Ever since Elon Musk announced that Tesla offloaded 75% of the position, that's been the case. Ethereum not even at its 20-week moving average. I'll actually talk about Ethereum. What I'm monitoring for Ethereum, the previous weekly open is a major support right around $1,600 right now. And 1760 is important, because if you open up that door, it gets you to 2,000. And so I'm going to be monitoring Ethereum here. The 20-week moving average also sitting just around that $2,000 level. And so for the upside scenario, if Bitcoin can cross above 24,300, I think that that's a confirmation Ethereum's ready to see 2,000. And in any case, if the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart drives the Ethereum to US dollar pairing higher, 1760 for the US dollar pairing is extremely important for Ethereum. And then to the downside, 1600 right now, that previous weekly open, you can see it was very strong resistance throughout this consolidation. That's the major support right now, or else it opens up the door to 1440, the 2018 previous all-time high. So that's what I'm monitoring there for Ethereum against the US dollar pairing. The Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, what I'm monitoring is 76,000 Satoshis. If we clear out this high here, that could be a confirmation that we're breaking this downtrend. But you know, I think it's going to be tough for the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart to get there. Let's see what happens. If you're in the middle of a bear market until you're in a bull market, it's tough to see the Bitcoin pairing of an altcoin show strength. So it's going to be very important to see what happens here with the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, in my opinion. So we'll be definitely monitoring that into this week. And other than that, I will say that the total market cap, you can see here, pretty much came to test 1.132 trillion. So I know a lot of altcoins made moves to the upside as of recently. We are now facing a major resistance still. So the same way with Bitcoin at 24,300. If Bitcoin can get above 24,300, that total market cap can push up, and that opens up a pretty big door all the way up to around 1.78 trillion. And so we're clearly facing major resistance right now, snipers. I've been saying that throughout the last few days, because 24,300 was not just a random number that we threw on our chart. That has been there for years now at this point. And so this is an important level that when Bitcoin first broke into new all-time highs in 2020, this was the candle high for that initial break of that price discovery. You know, that was a very important resistance level in the immediate short term. So you know, let's see what happens. We need to open up this door at 24,300 to start opening up the door to some further upside targets. And you can see that the bears clearly defended this resistance level for this monthly candle close. And now we're pretty much at the 200-week moving average for this new candle. And so let's see what happens, snipers. I think we have an interesting week ahead of us. August 10th, we have the CPI numbers coming out. And we also have the next Fed's meeting in September. So still some time till then. In immediate short term, what I'll say is the daily candle did close with quite bearish symmetry here for Bitcoin. rejecting an extremely important resistance level. When we go into the volume, what you'll see with volume is it's still very light volume. We haven't seen confirmation of sell pressure though. We've been seeing buy pressure come in as of recently. So, does that mean that we're due to see some sell pressure? Who knows? I mean, we've yet to get institutional sell pressure equating to the amount of buy pressure in this range. And we are still seeing low volume. And so I think sooner than later, we can see some volume come in, whether that's to the buy or the sell side. That could give us a good indicator of what the next move is going to be. So, if we go into the 15-minute chart, what you'll see is, as we have this new monthly and weekly open, so far we have been getting some large spikes of institutional sell pressure and no buyers to equate. So, hopefully we can start to see some more buy volume here coming in. Let's pull up the Coinbase chart. Less manipulated than the Binance chart with that wash trading. Yeah, you can see clearly more sell pressure than buy pressure right now. So, we had a nice little pump into the weekend. That was justified because the equity markets closed strong, but then we lost that quite quickly. And that wasn't a surprise because we were waiting for that 4-hour candle confirmation above 24,300. I can't stress it enough, snipers. We are still facing a major resistance level. De Chanel says, could this be the kiss of death pattern that happened before for stocks in the dot-com bubble? Well, it would definitely be a Bart head pattern if we dump from here, because we came to this resistance for a second time, formed a higher high, and then if we just get rejected again, it'd be interesting. Last time we held this previous weekly open, it was sitting right here at 20,800. We called that out, and that led to a higher high. That's why right now 22,600, that previous weekly open, the new one that just reset, to me is quite significant. Ren says, if we see downside to 21,000, do you think we see new lows, or could we find support there and then make that push to 28,000? That's a great question, Ren. So, the question is, if Bitcoin does come back to 20,000, are you going to be a buyer, right? Like if we do come back down here, are you going to be buying, or are you going to be catching a falling knife, right? So, it was disappointing to see Bitcoin reject 24,300. So I would say that looking for a long position down here, you would really want to get onto those smaller time frames and wait for a confirmation on a 3-minute or 5-minute, or else I would not be just buying this dip here. If you're going long here at the resistance, there's nowhere to set up a stop loss, in my opinion. So until we're out of this consolidation, this is the resistance of the consolidation. So I would not be going long here. If we start to come down, I think it would be fair to entertain some long positions, but I would have that stop loss right here below the 2018 previous all-time high, 19,800, just having that stop loss down there, and monitoring the smaller time frames, because you really don't want to be catching a falling knife if this thing starts to push down aggressively. So, it really depends on the momentum and how it happens. But so far, Bitcoin has been underperforming. And so, right now, it really puts Bitcoin in a sensitive position that equity markets are now open. And if we see downside in equity markets, it could justify Bitcoin seeing downside. It had the green light to get above 24,300 this weekend. It just didn't take it. So Fig House says, what would Josh do? So Josh will be on our next live stream. We fixed his mic and his audio, so that's very good news. But what would Josh do? Who knows? Josh also knows that we're facing major resistance here. As a matter of fact, this wick here, the candle high was straight to his spider line and immediately turning back around. So that was a little bit of a hint that this was a final destination for the weekend, and that we tried to push up, but we failed to do so. So Bitcoin still facing major resistance at 24,300 snipers. Smash the like button if you want more of this content. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I'm going to get some rest, maybe have a little bit of a late night, midnight snack, but I appreciate you guys for tuning in once again to this Sunday update. Let's see what happens this week. It's still the weekend. The markets are still manipulated. 24,300, the major resistance for Bitcoin. We need to conquer that resistance in order to open up the door to further upside price targets. In the immediate short term, our new previous weekly open, 22,576. That's the most important support level. If we break below that, it opens up the door to 20,000 US dollars. Let's see what happens. Are you going to be a buyer at 20,000 if Bitcoin takes a dip back down to that level? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, snipers. And I am out. Until next time, snipers out.